Students, in the previous video lectures, we have discussed about translatory motion and center of mass of the system. When we are dealing with system of particles, you need to calculate center of mass of the system, and we can characterize its motion depending on the position of center of mass and changes in the center of mass of the object. Likewise, when we are dealing with system of objects, you can come across a rigid body, where a rigid body is that which is also a system of particles. It is also a system of particles in which distance between the pair of particles remain constant. The separation between two particles will be always remain same. Say for example, you have a particle in the system like this. These are the particles in the system. Now I am applying force in all possible directions. I can apply force in this direction. I can apply force in this direction. I can apply force in this direction. When you are applying force, obviously this system can undergo compression or does not undergo any compression. It can undergo any compression or it need not undergo any compression. Based on that, you can classify rigid body and non-rigid body. If a system of particles where when you are applying any external force or pressure on the system, if the two particles position does not change, then we say that it is rigid body. If the position of the particles will be remain same, then we say that as rigid body. If the positions of the particles are undergoing change, then we say that it is non-rigid body. So two types of bodies which you can classify now based on the change in position of the internal particles. One is rigid body and the other one is non-rigid body. So as I already told you, like rigid body in the sense the position of the particles does not change. Like for example, a fan when it is rotated, the pen which you are writing, and the table on which you are placing some objects, a stone, these all are approximated to rigid. And clay, mud, these comes under non-rigid bodies, and sponge, rubber, these all comes under non-rigid bodies. When you are applying force upon that object, definitely it would undergo change in position of the particles. So such type of objects are said to be non-rigid bodies. And remember, in universe, there is no perfect rigid body. In universe, there is no perfect rigid body, but we approximate some bodies to be rigid. We approximate some bodies to be rigid. Students, we already have, like I have already told you just now what is meant by a rigid body. When we are dealing with motion of rigid body, there are three types of motion. One is pure translatory motion, other one is pure rotational motion, and the third one is combined translational and as well as rotational motion. In case of pure translatory motion, this is pure translatory motion where there are particles. M1, M2, M3, M4, there are many particles in the system. Now when there are many particles in the system, all the particles are undergoing same displacement x. You can see that here. All the particles are having same displacement and as well as same velocity. The change in position of all the particles are equal. Such type of motion is said to be pure translatory motion. When we deal with pure translatory motion, we will calculate center of mass of the system and we can find out change in position of center of mass, change in velocity of center of mass, change in acceleration of center of mass. We can calculate momentum, force applied, everything concerned with center of mass of the system. That's how we deal with pure translatory motion, which we have learnt in center of mass. Now coming to pure rotational motion. Pure rotational motion is quite different than that of pure translatory motion. Let me take one example. You have one object. This is one particular axis. It is now being rotated. When the object is rotated, you can take one particle here and another particle here. This is particle M1. This is particle M2. M1 and M2 have different rotational distances. Check it up. M1 and M2. This is having radius R1 and this is having radius R2. M1 and M2 are the particles of same object, but these two particles, distance traveled here is 2 pi R1, distance traveled here is 2 pi R2. And those particles which are exactly on the axis, what is distance traveled? Distance traveled will be equal to 0. So, when we are dealing with pure rotational motion, all the particles do have different distances traveled, and some particles which are exactly on the axis, they will not have any distance traveled or displacement. But overall, the body delta xcm will be equal to 0. There is no change in the position of center of mass, but internal particles do change their positions. Such type of motion is said to be pure rotational motion. This is example of pure rotational motion where all the particles are rotated about a fixed axis. And there are many such practically rotating objects in our daily life. A fan, which is rotated. This is a fan where these are the wings. It is rotated about this axis. This is axis of rotation. Similarly, Earth, rotation of the Earth. So this is the axis of rotation. And it is geographical north, geographical south. Earth will be rotated in its own axis. Like that, there are many such objects which will be in rotational motion, which you can come across in our daily life. Students, in this slide, I have shown you many examples of rotational motion. Now let me explain how to deal with pure rotational motion. Now I am considering a sphere, and this sphere is rotated about a fixed axis. This sphere is rotated about a fixed axis, and this is axis of rotation. It is called axis of rotation. Axis of rotation. Now every particle is at a different distance from the axis of rotation. Is it not? Each particle is at different perpendicular distance from axis of rotation. Now as all the particles are traveling different distance, you can calculate the overall kinetic energy of rotating object as Ke is equal to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square plus so on. So as the particles are different, you can write half m1. V can be written as r1 omega square. Omega is the same for this particle and as well as this particle. Plus half m2 r2 square omega square plus so on. From here I can take half omega square common, which can be written as m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on. Now m1 is mass of each particle, r1 is radius of the particle, m2 is mass of the second particle, r2 is radius of the second particle. Now as a whole, m1 square, m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square, it is some constant, right? So I can now write this as kinetic energy is equal to half omega square into some constant I, where I can be written as m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on, which is called moment of inertia. Therefore, when we are dealing with bodies which are in rotation, in order to deal with energy of the particle and in order to deal with different velocity and as well as uh, characteristics of this rotational motion, we need to first calculate moment of inertia, because each particle is having different distance traveled with respect to the fixed axis. So moment of inertia plays major role when we are dealing with pure rotational motion. So in order to calculate kinetic energy of the body, definitely you should calculate moment of inertia. In order to calculate moment of inertia, we use the formula I is equal to mr square. So this is the definition of moment of inertia. I is equal to m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus 1. And if you add these all, you need to replace it with summation. Of course, summation can also be replaced with integration also. And remember that the particles which are in a rotating body will execute circular motion. Therefore, circular motion is the special case of rotational motion. And unit of moment of inertia is kg meter square in SI system and gram centimeter square in CGS system. And remember, moment of inertia is analogous to mass in translatory motion. So wherever we are using translatory motion concepts and wherever we come across mass in translatory motion, in rotational motion, you need to replace it with moment of inertia. Let us compare the terms of linear motion and angular motion. In linear motion, you will be calling linear displacement. In angular motion, we call it as angular displacement. Angular motion is simply either it can be circular motion or rotational motion. We call angular displacement. And coming to linear motion, we call linear speed. Here it is angular speed denoted with omega. Omega is equal to delta theta divided by delta t. T is the time period of revolution. How much time it takes for one complete revolution? It is called time period of the revolution. Next, linear acceleration is replaced with angular acceleration. Angular acceleration is denoted with alpha, which is delta omega divided by delta t. Unit is radian per second square, and here in the case of angular speed it is radian per second. Next, in linear motion it is linear momentum. In angular motion you will be calling it as angular motion, angular momentum, which is mass is replaced with moment of inertia. I is equal to moment of inertia, and V should be replaced with omega, right? So this is relation between terms between linear motion and angular motion. And we already have learned linear distance is equal to r into theta, And if you differentiate this, you will get V is equal to R into omega. If you differentiate this, you will be getting A is equal to R alpha. This is the relation between linear distance, linear and angular motion. And we can write P is equal to mv, L is equal to I alpha. F is equal to ma. F should be replaced with torque, that is equal to I, this is omega and this is I alpha. And work done W is equal to force into displacement. In this case, you can calculate work done is equal to force is replaced with torque, displacement is replaced with theta. Next, kinetic energy is half mv square, and in this rotational motion, kinetic energy should be replaced with half, mass is replaced with moment of inertia, and linear speed is replaced with angular speed. So it is half I omega square. So that's the reason why everywhere, in order to calculate angular momentum, torque, work done, we definitely need moment of inertia. Therefore, it is mandatory to find out moment of inertia of different regular shaped objects and irregular shaped objects. So to calculate moment of inertia, we use a general procedure according to the formula, and there are few theorems which we can use to find out moment of inertia of different systems. Either it can be particles or it can be extended objects. We can find out moment of inertia of those systems. Yeah. Just like how in translatory motion, we have calculated center of mass. Similarly, in rotational motion, we will calculate moment of inertia. Moment of inertia is a property of an object that is related to its mass distribution. And moment of inertia is denoted with I, and it is important quantity in studying system of particles which are rotating. Remember, when the objects are in rotational motion, then only we will calculate moment of inertia. If not, we will calculate center of mass. And the role of moment of inertia in the study of rotation motion is analogous. Analogous means similar. Analogous to that of mass in the study of linear motion. Right? Next. Moment of inertia gives a measurement of resistance of a body to change its inertia, to change its rotational motion. See, in linear motion, we already have discussed mass is the measure of inertia, right? In Newton laws, we discussed it. Mass is the measure of inertia. And whereas in this chapter, moment of inertia is the measure of rotational inertia. It is the measure of rotational inertia. So just like how for linear body, we have inertia of rest, inertia of motion, inertia of direction. In the same way for rotating body also, we will have inertia. Moment of inertia is the measure of rotational inertia. That's one thing you need to remember. And moment of inertia depends on density of material of the object, shape and size of the object, and the axis of rotation. So remember that it depends mostly how the mass is distributed relative to the axis. Okay. If the mass is far away from the axis of rotation, as perpendicular distance increases, moment of inertia increases. So remember that it is depending upon distribution of mass from the axis. And remember, moment of inertia does not change if the mass is shifted parallel to the axis of rotation, and if the axis is rotated with constant radius about a fixed axis, right? So you need to keep these things in your mind when we are dealing with moment of inertia. So remember that moment of inertia depends on mass distributed from axis of rotation. If the axis of rotation is changing, moment of inertia of the body changes, different axis, we will be getting different moment of inertia. See, we have mass m1 here, which is at perpendicular distance r1. What this note tells is, if the mass is shifted parallel to the axis of rotation, then moment of inertia does not change. Say for example, this m1, it is undergoing shifting parallel to the axis. M1 comes to this new position. This is the shift. So when it is a shifting, is perpendicular distance changing? Perpendicular distance is not changing, and mass of the object is not changing. Moment of inertia initially is mr1 square, and finally is also m1 r1 square. So therefore, if the mass is shifting parallel to the axis of rotation, it does not change moment of inertia of the object.